I killed her! I killed her! Those were the words Ahmed Gamal shouted in the streets of Tanta, Egypt, holding a bloody knife just 48 hours after marrying Aya Alsharbini. But what truly kept me up at night while investigating this case wasn't the brutality of the 35 stab wounds he inflicted on her. It was discovering that Aya had cried for help 3 times before she died, and no one took her seriously. Likely from the comfort of your home, a mother in Egypt still blames herself for telling her daughter that every marriage is hard at first. When Aya called her in distress, talking about things she couldn't accept that her husband was asking for on their wedding night. What Ahmed was hiding was so dark that he chose to turn a honeymoon into a massacre. And what you're about to learn about the real motive behind this crime will completely change the way you see warning signs around you. If you, like me, are disturbed by stories of women who tried to ask for help but weren't heard and believe we need to learn how to recognize the warning signs to protect people around us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And one thing that always makes me curious, drop a comment telling me which country you're watching from, because cases like Aya's happen all over the world, and the more people learn to recognize these patterns, the more lives we can save. Aya Alsharbini was 25 years old and had a smile that, according to the neighbors in Tanta, lit every room she entered. A kindergarten teacher, a devoted daughter from a middle-class family, the kind of woman any mother would dream of having as a daughter. But here's what haunted me as I investigated this case. Aya knew something was wrong with Ahmed from the very first day of their engagement. For 3 years, she tried in various ways to warn her family about Ahmed Gamal. 3 specific cries for help that were completely ignored. The first happened early in the engagement and had to do with something she noticed about his behavior. The second was a desperate conversation with her mother where she used a word no bride should ever have to use. And the third cry for help happened exactly 14 hours before she was stabbed 35 times. Because what I had discovered about Ahmed that final night was so disturbing that he preferred to turn him into a feminicide statistic than let her tell anyone what she had found out. But first, you need to understand how an entire family can fail to protect someone who was literally begging to be saved. The first time Aya tried to warn her family was right after her first private meeting with Ahmed during their engagement. She came home different, her mother noticed, but assumed it was just nerves. Aya then said something that should set off every alarm. Mom, there's something about Ahmed that makes me uncomfortable. He looks at me in a strange way. But her mother, like so many do, replied, Sweetheart, all men are strange at first. You'll get used to it. The second sign came 6 months before the wedding. Aya was helping plan the preparations when she suddenly paused and told her brother Hazm, I can't picture myself building a life with him. When I think about the future, I see a void. Hazm laughed and said it was just cold feet. But there was something in Aya's voice, a quiet certainty he would only understand later when he found his sister's body in a pool of blood. The third attempt was the most desperate. It happened 2 weeks before the wedding, when Aya discovered something about Ahmed that changed everything. She tried to talk to her mother about calling everything off, but when pressed for a reason, Aya couldn't find the words to explain what she had seen. How could a daughter from a traditional family explain that she had caught her fiancé doing something that would destroy both their reputations? How could she speak about what she found on his phone without admitting she had invaded his privacy? So Aya did what thousands of women do every day. She swallowed her fear, smiled, and went ahead with the wedding. After all, everyone kept saying she was just nervous. Everyone was sure Ahmed was a great match. And every time she tried to express her unease, she heard the same reply. You'll get used to it. But what no one realized is that Aya wasn't asking to get used to it. She was asking to be saved. April 28, 2023. The streets of Esbet Kafr Dawood had never seen a celebration so beautiful. Colorful lights adorned every corner, the sound of ululations echoed through the homes, and Aya looked absolutely stunning in her white dress. Everyone commented on how she looked like a princess straight out of a fairy tale. Ahmed was all smiles, greeting guests and looking like the happiest man in the world, the perfect image of a couple in love, beginning a new life together. But If you looked closely, and I only noticed this later while analyzing photos from the wedding, you could see something in Aya's eyes. A subtle tension that no one picked up on in the moment. She smiled, danced, waved, but there was a stiffness in her movements, as if she were playing the role of the happy bride instead of truly living it. Her mother later said, I thought it was normal wedding jitters, but now I realize my daughter was saying goodbye. The party lasted late into the night. Hundreds of people celebrated a love that all believed to be real. Ahmed received congratulations from men who envied him from winning over a woman like Aya. The women in the family whispered about how lucky he was. And when the newlyweds finally left for their apartment, everyone went home with full hearts, convinced they had just witnessed the beginning of a beautiful love story. No one imagined that exactly 47 hours and 23 minutes later, Ahmed would be running through those same streets screaming that he had killed his wife. No one knew that the white dress everyone had admired would be replaced by a crime scene that would shock all Egypt. And even less than Aya's first phone call as a married woman will be a desperate cry for help that her own mother couldn't understand. Because what happened in that apartment on that very first night was so disturbing that it turned a honeymoon into a countdown to a murder. April 29th, the morning of her first day as a wife. Aya should have been radiant, having breakfast with her husband, planning the honeymoon, enjoying the magical face every newlywed dreams of. Instead, she was locked in the bathroom, hands trembling, dialing her mother's number. The call lasted exactly 11 minutes and 34 seconds. I found out this from the phone company records, and it changed everything. Mom, he asked me to do things like the people of Lot used to do. That phrase in Islamic tradition refers to sexual acts considered deeply sinful and unnatural. Aya was clearly panicking, her voice shaky, trying to explain something she barely understood herself. Her mother, on the other hand of the line, was confused. What did Alman ask on their wedding night that left her daughter so distraught? He's not normal, Mom. What he wants from me, I never imagined such a thing existed. Aya was crying now, and for the first time her mother realized this wasn't just newlywed anxiety. It was real terror. Yet, even hearing the fear in her daughter's voice, she responded with words that would haunt her forever. Sweetheart, every man has his quirks. Give it time, you'll understand each other. What Aya's mother didn't know was that Ahmed had revealed a dark side he had hidden for years. Something so specific and disturbing that he needed a submissive wife to fulfill it. And when Aya refused, when she showed disgust and fear, something in Ahmed's mind began to crack. Because he hadn't married for love. He had married to have someone who couldn't say no to his darkest desires. The call ended with Aya begging, Mom, come get me, please. But her mother, trying to be the voice of reason, said, Tomorrow I'll come over to talk to both of you. Just rest for today. She hung up, thinking she had calmed her daughter. In truth, she had just signed her death warrant. April 30th, 9:15 a.m. Aya's mother arrived at the apartment carrying a tray of traditional sweets, a surprise for the couple. She had spent the night worried about her daughter's call but had convinced herself that an in-person conversation would fix everything. When Ahmed opened the door, something was off. His smile was forced, his gaze evasive, like he was acting out the role of the perfect son-in-law. Aya appeared in the living room wearing makeup that was far too heavy for someone just lounging at home. Her mother noticed, but assumed she was trying to impress her husband. What she didn't realize was that Aya was trying to hide the marks on her face, bruises on her neck covered with foundation, a small cut on her lip hidden under dark red lipstick. Signs that night before had been far worse than the desperate phone call had revealed. During breakfast, Ahmed wouldn't stop talking. He rambled on about future plans, cracked jokes complimented the food, a nervous monologue from someone trying to fill a dangerous silence. Aya just smiled and nodded, but her hands trembled every time he touched her. Her mother took it as shyness, but it was pure fear. Then came the moment that changed everything. Ahmed left to buy bread, and Aya literally threw herself into her mother's arms. Mom, he's going to kill me if I don't do what he wants. He said that if I tell anyone, no one will believe me because we're married now. Aya was whispering, desperate, glancing at the door as if Ahmed could return any second. He's not human, Mom. What he did to me last night, But before Aya could finish her sentence, they heard the key in the lock. Ahmed was back. Aya immediately pulled away from her mother, smiled again, resumed the act. And her mother, still in shock from what she had just heard, didn't know how to respond. When she left at 11:30 a.m., she looked back one last time and saw Aya at the window, making a gesture she would only understand later. She was saying goodbye forever. Exactly 90 minutes after that goodbye, Aya would be dead. 1 p.m. Sharp. Aya's mother had just arrived home when Ahmed pulled a 20-centimeter kitchen knife from the drawer. Aya was in the bedroom, likely trying to process the conversation with her mother, when she heard the footsteps approaching. She knew, from the sound of his breathing, the way he was dragging his feet, she knew something terrible was about to happen. Ahmed, what are you doing? That was the last full sentence Aya managed to say, because when she turned and saw the knife in his hand, when she saw the look she had tried to warn everyone about, it was already too late to run. Ahmed didn't respond. He didn't shout. He didn't even look angry. He simply began to stab her with a calculated coldness that even the most experienced investigators found chilling. The first stab was to her back, as Aya tried to flee toward the door. The second and third hit her neck when she fell and tried to shield herself with her hands. But Ahmed didn't stop. He continued stabbing with methodical precision. Her stomach, chest, arms, even her fingers were slashed as she tried to defend herself. 35 stab wounds in total, each one deliberate, each one designed to ensure she wouldn't survive. The forensics report revealed something that kept me up at night. Aya tried to crawl under the bed during the attack. There was a trail of her blood from the center of the room to the headboard. That means she was conscious. She was fighting to survive, while Ahmed kept stabbing. She must have spent at least 2 minutes in agony, knowing she was dying, listening to the man who was supposed to protect her, murmuring something no one will ever know. When he finally stopped, Ahmed looked at what he had done and felt relief, because finally his secret was safe. Finally, no one could expose what he really was. His knife on his clothes and did something that no one has been able to explain to this day. He smiled while looking at Aya's mutilated body as if he had just solved a complicated problem. 1:17 p.m. 17 minutes after committing the murder, Ahmed Gamal did something no sane criminal would do. He ran into the street holding the bloody knife, shouting for everyone to hear, "I killed her! I killed my wife!" as if it were an achievement, as if he wanted the whole world to know he had eliminated Aya Alsharbini. The first people to see him thought it was a tasteless prank. A man covered in blood, holding a knife, screaming that he killed his wife just 2 days after the wedding. It sounded too surreal to be real. But when Ahmed began giving details, "She's in the bedroom, on the floor, lots of blood," that's when they realized it wasn't a joke. The vendor Abu Mahmoud, who had stalled in the corner, was the first to react. He tackled Ahmed to the ground and grabbed the knife, yelling for someone to call the police. But even subdued, Ahmed kept talking, as if he couldn't stop. "You don't understand. She found out. She was going to tell everyone." Found out what? Tell what? No one could understand why he looked so relieved. Because this was the most disturbing part. Ahmed showed no remorse. He didn't cry, he didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't seem shocked. On the contrary, he seemed freed, as if a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders, as if he could finally breathe after years of suffocating under the terrible secret. And when the police arrived, the first thing he said wasn't, "I'm sorry," or "It was an accident." It was, "Now she can't talk anymore." Neighbors who witnessed this public confession were traumatized not only by the violence but by Ahmed's coldness. One of them, Mr. Farouk, later said, "It was like he was announcing that he'd fixed something broken. There was no humanity in those eyes." But what truly shocked everyone was realizing that Ahmed hadn't killed out of jealousy or passion. He had killed Aya to silence her forever. Tenta police station, 2:30 p.m. Ahmed sat in the interrogation room, still wearing his blood-stained clothes, when he told his first version of events. It was such an elaborate lie that investigators almost believed it. "I found out my wife wasn't a virgin. She deceived me, dishonored my family. I lost control." In Egypt culture, this excuse could even generate sympathy. It could make Ahmed seem like a victim of dishonor. But Detective Mahmoud Qassem, a veteran with 20 years of experience, felt something didn't add up. Why would a man who supposedly discovered a betrayal stab his wife 35 times? Why would he run into the street shouting as if celebrating? Why did he look so relieved? Qasim ordered an immediate post-mortem examination, and 3 days later he received the result that changed everything. 5th, 2023. The medical report dropped like a bomb. Aya Alsharbini was a virgin at the time of her death. Ahmed had lied about everything. When confronted with this evidence, he sat in silence for a full of 47 minutes. He didn't deny it. He didn't try to come up with a new story. He just stared at his own hands, as if processing the core of his lie had collapsed. That's when investigators began digging deeper into Ahmed Gamal's life. And what they uncovered was a web of secrets he had been hiding for years. Neighbors reported strange behavior. Ahmed had been seen wearing women's clothes inside his home. Staff at a local cafe whispered about suspicious meetings he had with other men. And then came the testimony that changed everything. Samir, a 19-year-old young man, voluntarily came to the police. He was trembling as he spoke. Ahmed had been contacting me for 2 years. He offered me money to do things with him. Things normal men don't ask for. Samir's statement revealed that Ahmed was living a double sexual life, desperately hiding it from the conservative society of Tanta. When Aya discovered the truth on their wedding night, she became the only person who could destroy the reputation he had spent years building. Suddenly, everything made sense. Ahmed didn't kill for honor. He killed to protect his darkest secret. The story of Aya Alsharbini teaches us a devastatingly simple reason. When a woman says something feels wrong, when she expresses fear without being able to fully explain why, when her instincts scream that she's in danger, we must believe her. Because sometimes behind the "I'm not comfortable with him," there's a desperate cry for help that could be the difference between life and death. Tried to warn us 3 times. 3 chances we had to save her, and we missed them because we thought we knew better than she did what was normal in a relationship. Today, while Ahmed Gamal awaits execution in an Egypt prison, the Alsharbini family still asks themselves, what if we had listened? What if we had taken that first "something's not right" seriously? What if we had understood that a daughter doesn't need to prove why she's afraid, she just needs to be protected? The truth is, there are hundreds of Ayas around us right now. Women who sense something is off about their partners but can't quite put it into words. Daughters trying to warn their families about marriages that don't feel right. Friends whispering concerns that we dismiss as female insecurity. And every time we ignore those signs, we risk repeating the tragedy of Tanta. If this story moved you the way it moved me, I need you to do something for Aya. Share this video in your WhatsApp groups, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you can. Because every person who learns about the story of Aya Alsharbini is one more person who might recognize the warning signs in their own life or in the life of someone they love. One more person who might save the next Aya before it's too late. Her memory deserves to have her story told. It deserves for us to learn from her tragedy. And it deserves for her cry for help. The one no one heard in time. The echo loud enough that other women will be heard and protected. Share this for Aya. Share it for every woman who still has a chance to be saved.